jason@faithandmarriage.org.
Spots are limited, so please register today. Thank you very much. God bless, and we hope you can join us.
Hey, I'm Keith Sparrow from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. My guest this week on Let's Talk is rock photographer and Haunted History Tours founder, Sydney Smith. Sydney, have ghosts or rock and roll been better for you over the years?
Well, it's all about drugs, sex, rock and roll, and haunted history tours. There is also my stripping career, too. We didn't even, that we can talk about that as well.
Well, tune in this week on Let's Talk to hear all about sex, drugs, rock and roll, and Sydney's stripping career.
We're local and educational. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public television.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we'll cover only one team, the Delgado Dolphins. We'll talk about the life and times of Coach Joe Scheuermann, Hall of Fame coach from Delgado. He joins us on our program, and a guy that I've known most of my life, grew up in the same neighborhood with him. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Eric.
Good to have you, and good to see you again. Joe and I grew up together in uptown New Orleans, went to St. Francis of Assisi School, and who'd have known 35 years later, 35 years at Delgado, and of course, decades later, Hall of Famer, multiple-time Hall of Famer, and of course, a guy that's recognized around not just New Orleans, state of Louisiana, and around the nation as one of the best baseball coaches out there. We welcome you to our program today.
Thank you, Eric. You still got that left-handed jump shot?
No, I still got the left hand, but not a jump shot. Before we get started, Joe, first of all, a little bit about growing up uptown, and of course, son of legendary Rags Scheuermann. Anybody that knows the Scheuermann family, a family that again helped everyone. Okay, in the neighborhood that we grew up in, I was just talking to Joe about his mom, Maureen, loading up all the kids in the station wagon. I was one of those kids heading out to Curse Rooney, heading out to baseball games, and it was a kind of a family affair. It's still a family affair when it comes to the Scheuermanns and Delgado baseball in Curse Rooney.
It really, uptown New Orleans was great. I mean, Patton Street's been awesome. We just lost my sister Emma not less than a month ago, and the outpouring of help and sympathy from the Patton Street gang. We had 65 kids, Eric, from State Street to Eleanor. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd play everything from kick to can to basketball to single pitch baseball and singles, doubles, and triples. And I mean, it was old school New Orleans, right? And some of the notes that I got from people when Emma Lou passed, and some of the notes I got when I was announced to be in the Hall of Fame, it it brought back some great memories, man.
There's no doubt. St. Francis of Assisi, when that neighborhood was a great neighborhood to grow up in. And of course, again, everybody hanging out on Patton Street. That was right next to the school. The schoolyard was there with, again, the basketball goals. And it was we were there all the time.
It was our Disney World, right? It was our Disney World. Everybody talks about Disney World. That's where we went in the summer, right?
From dawn to dusk.
That's right.
Sometimes, until the priest would tell us we had to go home.
That's exactly right.
First of all, let's talk about. I want to talk about some of Joe's accomplishments, and then we're going to get into again what his life, and of course also again what he's done for baseball, not just again in our city, but really across the state of Louisiana. 35 years as Delgado's coach. Louisiana's all-time winningest college baseball coach with over 1,200 wins, 1,207 to be exact. Am I right?
There you go.
14 consecutive NJCAA regional titles for Delgado, 17 super regional berths, 5 trips to the Junior College World Series, and of course 2025 inductee into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. It's the 4th father and son combination because his dad Rags went in as well. In the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, also a Tulane Sports Hall of Fame inductee, American Amateur Baseball Hall of Fame inductee, and 2025 NJCAA Coach Legacy Award winner. Did I miss any? Because that's a lot. That's a lot of awards and a lot of Hall of Fames. Did I miss any?
I'll be quite honest with you, Eric. I don't know if you do. You know, a lot of people say, "Man, Coach knows everything." It's very humbling. I love these awards. And we're walking through the studio to get here today, and I think I met a gentleman outside. I said, I think the only thing it means is I'm getting old, right? I mean, the more awards you get. I'll give you a neat little story, Eric. So we're sitting backstage before the Hall of Fame's banquet started the other night. They put us in alphabetical order, right? So Nick Saban's Saban and Sherman's Scheu, right? So I'm sitting next to Coach Saban, and for about 5 or 6 minutes, I mean, it was like stone ice. Nobody's talking to one another. You know me, I'll talk to a fence post if I can. So I broke the ice, started talking to Coach, and I said, you know, I hear you know, he just joined us that day because he was making Aflac commercials.
Right.
So I hear you've been busy on the road, Coach, making commercials. He looked at me like, where do I know you from? You know, like who, you know. I said, I work with you at the Sugar Bowl. And he says, oh yeah, okay, now it's starting to come back to me. He says, you know, I was a baseball player. I was a better baseball player than a football player.
Really?
I said, really? I said, let me guess, you were a shortstop. He goes, yeah, how did you know that? I said, most good baseball players are shortstops, right? And we broke the ice and started talking a little bit. But the neat thing about the whole weekend was I got to meet guys like Whitworth.
Right. Yeah.
My best friend in the world was Herb Vincent.
Okay.
Who's with the SEC now, was with LSU forever. Got to go in with him. That was neat. Yes. You know, I mean, it was just a great weekend.
Yeah, an incredible honor, and again, well deserved as well. I can say that. We all know. I want to ask you a little bit about your influence, but I want to start from the beginning. Growing up uptown, your dad is again the head coach of Loyola baseball to 1972 when the program was disbanded, dropped. Right. Talk about that and talk about living and growing up with a legend.
You know. And I told this story numerous times this weekend to different media people. Growing up as Rag Sherman's son had its pluses, but it also had a lot of its minuses. I think I put so much pressure on myself as a quote unquote little leaguer. I tell this story, Eric. We were playing at Eleanor Playground, right? And I was a 10-year-old shortstop who thought, you know, I was pretty good. You know, we were playing at St. Patrick Playground. Yes. And they hit me a ground ball and it went right through my legs, and we lost the game. And walking out the gate after the game, I felt terrible, and walked by a guy and I heard him say, yeah, that was Rag Sherman's son that just cost us that game. And Eric, I'm gonna tell you, my whole life, from 10 years old till today, I didn't want to do anything to ever embarrass my dad again. So I really didn't play a whole lot of baseball from the time I was 12 to the time I was 17 years old. I went fishing and hunting with my Uncle Jack. Remember my Uncle Jack? Yep. We built a camp in Violet, lived on Happiness Bayou, and baseball was another thought. But once I got to be 16 and was in high school, went to De La Salle, played 8th grade baseball for De La Salle. George Heblow was my coach. He treated me differently. He didn't treat me as Rags' son, which I really appreciated. And I played 1 year for him. And then my freshman year, decided to transfer to Redemptress and played for my second dad, Skeeter Thayard, and from that point on, baseball became fun again. You know, I really enjoyed going to practice every day. Really enjoyed. I didn't play as much as a freshman. I kept a scorebook for Coach Thayard, but I went to every varsity game. My sophomore, junior, senior year, played a lot. And by the time I was a senior, you know, we had great success. Tommy Matthews was our stud. He was our best player and our shortstop. We won the state championship.
Yes.
The last game ever to be played with Redemptress on a student athlete's chest was our state championship, and we won.
Right.
And I'll never forget that. You know, so the year ends. My daddy, like you said, my mom and dad decided to throw a party for the team. We're at the party in my backyard that night. And my dad was trying to recruit Tommy Matthews. I said, Tommy, have you made a decision about what you're going to do at school? He goes, no, Coach, really don't. He goes, man, why don't you come to Delgado and be a two-way, be a basketball and baseball player? And I think that might have interested Tommy a little bit at the time. Ended up coming to Delgado and just being just a baseball player. Only played there 1 year because Tulane signed him. But he asked me right after, he goes, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, Dad. He goes, well, here's your choices, the Army or Delgado. I said, I'm going to Delgado.
I think so.
So, and the rest is history. I played for my dad for 2 years and then got the chance to play at Tulane. Coach Brockhoff gave me an opportunity through Mickey Retief.
Yes.
Played there for 2 years, was a captain my senior year, and was able to coach after that at Tulane for 5 years, which really, in that whole process, if you would have told me I was going to be a Tulane graduate, when I left Redemptress, I would have said you need psychiatric help. And two, if you would have told me I was going to be a baseball coach, I would have said, no, I'm not going to be that, because I was very intrigued in sports information.
Yes.
M.L. Lagarde was the sports information director at Tulane. He gave me an opportunity to be a student in his office, worked for him through from the time I was 15 years old through the time I went to Tulane. And really got to meet a lot of great people through the Sugar Bowl.
Yes.
And thought, because of my connections with the Sugar Bowl, that I wanted to be an administrator, you know, a sports information guy. And faith has it, everybody's tragedy was Coach Scheuermann's plus, because the basketball scandal hits Tulane.
Right. I'm
working in the sports information at the time. Hyman Wall, the athletic director, says, you know, we're going to have to downsize. They're going to suspend the basketball program. And I said, well, that eliminates me, because they really don't need another person. And then he said, he calls me into the office. He goes, listen, we're going to eliminate that position, but we're going to give you an assistant baseball coach's position. Okay. So that's how I actually got into coaching. And then
under Brockhoff?
Under Brockhoff, yeah. So started coaching there, and then in walks Mac Brown and Wright Waters, right?
Yes.
Wright Waters was really the guy that ran the program every day, the athletic department every day. And 2 years into my coaching, he offers me the director of the Green Wave Club position. He said, I think you'd be great at this. I was sitting in the office with Mac Brown and Mr. Waters, and I said, I really appreciate it, but I want to be a coach. Okay. And Wright looked right at Mac Brown and said, I told you so. And you know, the rest is history. I wouldn't trade anything I did over again, but the ironic part is I didn't become the Delgado baseball coach until my dad was inducted. And I don't know if you're going to tell that story a little later, but so we go to Natchitoches that summer, and we're walking into my dad's induction ceremony into the Hall of Fame, and he pulls me on the side. He goes, "Listen, I'm gonna announce that I'm going to retire." I said, "Really? What brought that on?" He goes, "Oh, Mom and I have been talking about it for a while. It's time." He said, I didn't want to throw you a curveball." So I went and sat at the table with Eddie. Eddie was there. Eric Shaw was at the table.
Yes, yes.
I said, "Hey, Daddy just told me he's going to retire. Did he tell you that?" He goes, "No." I said, "Well, he's going to tell all of us in about 15 minutes that." So sure enough, and you know, we're driving home from Natchitoches. My wife and I our son was probably a year old,
right,
11 months old. My wife said, "What's going to happen?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "My dad wants me to take the job." I said, "But I don't want the job unless they want me to have the job. I don't want to be Rags' son again." You know what I'm saying? Same old scenario.
Yep.
So I met with James Collier, who was Dr. James Collier, who's now in charge of the foundation here that started TOPS at the time. And he said, I said, Doc, I would love to be the coach at Delgado if you think I should be the coach at Delgado, not because I'm Rags' son. And he said, well, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. If you're Rags' son, I probably wouldn't. If you wasn't Rags' son, I'd probably the kids way up there, and I'll sneak up and watch my kids play for 2 or 3 days. But the whole operation hasn't changed very much in 70 years.
It's crazy.
You know, and you know, again, getting back to my Sugar Bowl days, watching Tommy Bowden and his brother Bobby Bowden follow their daddy, and thinking, you know, man, there's a lot of similarities into the reason these guys are successful.
Yes.
Because the system has been the same at Florida State the whole time Bowden was there.
Right.
The minute Bowden left, look what happened.
That's right.
You know, so it's how you do things and the way you do things and why you do things that make you successful. And you know, I'm not saying we Shermans do everything right, because we don't. But everything we do has a reason and a purpose and a plan. You know, we just don't throw our heads up and guess.
It's a well-oiled machine, I can tell you that. Okay, it's been going on for so long over Kirsch Rooney and the Shermans again. And again, if you walk out there, you'll see the entire Sherman family there. It's been like that for decades. You mentioned the New Orleans Boosters, and maybe some folks don't know about the New Orleans Boosters, which again, a very successful, team and program. Talk about that.
Yeah, so the New Orleans Boosters came about through the Nord Recreation Department. So in 1951, I believe, my dad used to coach the Babe Ruth entry and the New Orleans the Nord entry to Johnstown. So he would coach the 15-year-old Babe Ruth team, and then when that season ended, he'd go and coach the All-Stars that took to Johnstown. And he would coach, they called them the All-Stars, it was the All-American League players. But they would go to Johnstown, and he did that from 1951 through when I took over for him in 1990. And what it is, it's summer baseball. It's a team made up of college players from all the different schools in the area, and they go to Johnstown, PA for a AAA-BA tournament. Tournament's been in place for, I think, 85 years now.
Right.
So it's really been a neat kind of getaway from the everyday grind of your just set college club, and got to meet some great guys. I mean, you know, like through the years, I mean, Jerry Shane, my dad. I'm gonna give you a neat story about this. So I go to the World Series, Eric. Every year, I got 36 straight years going to the World Series. There's a group of us. Frank Fortunata, who was one of my daddy's former players, in 1990 said, "Hey, let's go to the World Series." It was the year after the earthquake, and my dad and Skeeter had gone to the earthquake World Series, and they swore they'd never go to another one. Right. So Frank and I started going. Cincinnati against Oakland was our first trip. I came home and I told my wife, I said, she goes, "How was it?" I said, "Man, it was awesome, Shelley." I said, "I got bad news though. I'm going every year till I die." And I got 36 years straight on with it. But some of the neat stories. So we're sitting in San Diego this one particular year. The Padres are playing the Yankees, and we're waiting for our tickets. And I'm in the Marriott lobby, and I see Jack McKeon, who was the longtime manager for the Padres. And super baseball man. He was at the time with the Florida Marlins, and I had my New Orleans Booster polo shirt on, and he was sitting across the way from me, and he walked up. He said, "New Orleans Boosters, what's that?" I said, "Oh, that's a summer baseball team that I coach. Goes to Johnstown, Pennsylvania." He goes, "Johnstown, Pennsylvania, New Orleans." He goes, "Rag Sherman?" I said, "That's my dad." He started talking. And next thing you know, he says, "The best hitter I ever saw." And here's Jack McKeon, managing the big leagues and everything, was Wayne Petrie. I said, he goes, "I played in that tournament. Wayne Petrie's the best hitter I ever saw play baseball." I said, "Come on, Mr. McKeon, that's a pretty strong statement." He goes, "I'm telling you." He said, "I saw him play as an 18-year-old kid, and I can still see his swing today." Now, that's the tradition of that tournament. Right. The Reggie Jacksons, the Steve Garveys, the Oral Hershises, you know, Jack McKeon, Joe Torre, Frank Torre. They all played in this tournament, and it's got a tremendous history. And to hear Jack McKeon, I came home and I called Wayne Petrie. I said, "Wayne, let me tell you the story." He goes, "Oh, come on." I said, "Now, how could I make that up?" I mean, I couldn't make that up. Right. And Wayne's in the AAA BA Hall of Fame along with my dad and myself, but he must have been quite a player. He played in '61. I don't quite.
Yeah.
I was born in '62.
Yeah, right. Wouldn't remember that one. Speaking of Major League Baseball, before we go to break, I want to stay with this for a moment. A lot of people don't realize Kersh-Rooney was the home of Major League Baseball. You and I, as kids, got to see major leaguers playing at Kersh-Rooney, and I remember it like it was yesterday, jumping in that station wagon with your mom and the entire neighborhood, heading over to Kersh-Rooney for the Braves versus the Orioles.
That's right.
Talk about the story.
Yeah, so they used to play an exhibition game. In fact, there was another game played a couple years earlier. The Reds played the Indians in '67, but this particular year was the year Henry Aaron was going to break Babe Ruth's home run record. And the Braves played the Orioles. Jim Palmer was the starting pitcher for the Orioles.
Yes.
And of course, Henry Aaron, the longtime manager, that was on deck when he managed the Giants. Come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short.
Earl Weaver?
No. Long story short, they played at Kersh-Rooney. Henry Aaron hit a home run that day over the left center field fence that one-hopped the loading dock. Had to be hit 450 feet if it was hit a foot. And a janitor at Delgado caught it.
Right.
I remember I was working the scoreboard. I saw him catch it on one hop. And Aaron circled the bases. The minute he touched home plate, they put him in a limousine, and off he went.
Yes.
2 weeks later, he broke the home run record.
Crazy.
So it was a very memorable day for me. But Pete Rose played there in '67 with the Reds as a rookie, and of course I was 6 years old at the time. But I remember him playing because everybody liked Charlie Hustle, right?
Yes.
And that was the beginning of the big red machine, Concepcion and Perez and all those
Bench.
guys. Yeah, Bench, and they were all young players then. He played there. So they've had Major League Baseball there. They played one game in Tad Gormley as well, which was kind of bizarre. That was before my time. The home plate actually sat where the long jump pit was.
Okay.
And you hit it toward. They had short poles on left and right field, but center field was forever. So when we got 10 or 12 days of bad weather in a row one year, I mean, we're getting ready to open the season. I'm thinking, man, what am I going to do? I said, where am I going to practice? We couldn't get on our field.
Right.
I walked across the street to Tad Gormley and asked the guy at Tad Gormley if I could use the field to practice on. He goes, baseball? I said, yeah, they used to play. Watch, and I showed him how it was laid out, and I practiced there for a week.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty neat.
That's pretty neat, but I got to tell you what's pretty neat is as a little kid with with my green Illinois hat with the white E on it, going up to Brooks Robinson and Henry Aaron again on the field at Kersh-Rooney. Just incredible. How did that come about? Was that Rags?
No, I think it was actually done through Milt Retief.
Okay, yeah.
And his relationship with Major League Baseball. I know my dad was on a committee, but I think it was Milt Retief driven. Because I know Milt also organized when it started to play in the Dome.
Yes.
Remember they had some games in the Dome. But Coach Retief was a big-time baseball person in New Orleans and did a lot for the city.
You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Our guest tonight, Hall of Fame coach Joe Scheuermann of Delgado. We'll take a break here from our underwriters. We'll come back. We'll continue our conversation. Stay tuned.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Joe Scheuermann, Delgado baseball coach, Hall of Famer, with us on our program today. Joe, before I get back into Delgado, Sugar Bowl. People see you all the time. You mentioned the coaches you've been around. I would see all the time when I was covering the Sugar Bowl. Again, how did you get involved in that? And then again, you still do it today. Why?
Yeah, so it's really let's start from scratch. 13 years old, John Jolly, who was a long-time prep editor for the Picayune, called my dad up and said, "Hey, we're looking to hire a mail courier the month of November, December. You think Joe wants to work?" And I heard the conversation. "Yes, sir, I'll do that." So got off the phone. My dad said, "Hey, he wants you to meet him at the Sugar Bowl office. Go down and see what it's all about." So the next morning, I got on the Magazine Street bus, shot down to their office. Used to be on Barone and Camp. Okay. In the old International building. Got off the bus right on the corner and went into the building. And he said, "Listen, here's what you do. Every day we get newspapers and telegrams delivered. You have to bring them to the 2 team hotels and get them to the appropriate people." He said, "And then after that, after lunch, we will have you deliver the media credentials to the media hotel as they're requested." I said, "I'm in." He goes, "Do you have a bicycle?" I said, "No, sir, I don't." He said, "That might be a problem." He said, I'll be right back." So he walked out the office. He comes back. He says, "Okay, go see Miss Betty Thetty," was the lady's name. I'll never forget her name as long as I live. "Go see Miss Betty Thetty. She's going to give you some money to buy a bicycle." So I walked outside the office. She gave me a $100 bill, Eric. I'll never forget that. First $100 bill I ever saw in my life. And I got back on the Magazine Street bus, headed home, and I said, "You know where I went?"
"Oh, I know where you went."
Herwood Swin on Magazine. I got off the bus at State and Magazine, walked back, and I get there, and it was November. Everybody's buying Christmas bikes and all, packed with parents, and people are passing me like freight trains passing trams, right? So finally, I walked up to the counter. I said, "Excuse me, I'd like for somebody to wait on me." And the guy behind the counter said sarcastically, "Oh, I'm sure you want to buy a bike, huh?" I said, "Yes, I do." He said, "How much money you got?" I took out that $100 bill, and all of a sudden I was a customer, right? So I said, he goes, "What do you want?" I said, "I need a newspaper bike with a big basket on it." They had one hanging on. Remember, they used to hang on the wall. Right. I said, "Like that one right there." He said, "Well, that's the only one we got." It was a black one. I said, "That's fine." He took it off the wall, pumped the tires up, and I rode it home. I got $25. It was $75 with the baskets. $25 change, and next day, my dad said, "How are you going to get to work?" I said, "I'm going to ride my bike." He goes, "You're going to ride the bike all the way downtown?" I said, "Yeah, I'm just follow the Magazine Street, just like the bus." Rode my bike down there, and when I got to the office, I gave Miss Betty her $25 and the receipt back. She goes, "Just keep it." I said, "Man, is this great? How great is this?"
Got a
bicycle, $25? It don't get any better than this. And the rest is history. But that year was 1974. Alabama was playing Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl that year.
What a game.
So back then, what they would do, the newspapers would come by bus and by train. Yes. And you'd go pick them up at the bus station. They had a Continental bus station and a Greyhound bus station, and then the train station. So I'd have to go to the 2 bus stations and get all the stuff, all the newspapers, and then I'd go to the train station and get whatever deliveries they had there, put it all in my basket. Well, I never realized Alabama, the state of Alabama, has more newspapers. They got weeklies, dailies, bi-weeklies, So, I mean, newspapers. I had them in the two saddlebag baskets, and I'm riding back and forth. Now I'm going to deliver Alabama first to Coach Bryant, right? So I go up to his hotel. I'll never forget, they had a doorbell. Rang the doorbell, no answer. Rang the doorbell a second time, no answer. Well, the third time was a charm. He answered, "All right, boy, come on, what you got?" I said, "I got newspaper delivery, sir." "Bring them in here." For Eric, it looked like the place was on fire. Smoke, cigar smoke. We went in this room, and they had a big conference table. And he says, "Put them on the table, son." And I said, "I got some telegrams, sir. I'll be right back." So I went out and got a stack of telegrams that I had for him. Brought those in. He said, "Here, gave me a $1 bill." And to this day, I'm so mad I didn't get that $1 bill autographed. But that was 1974 I started, and I worked through today in every capacity that you could have. So I was a courier, then I became media assistant where I actually handed out the credentials.
Right.
And then I became, believe it or not, the director of media relations because the gentleman passed away. Mr. Rogers was in charge of that for many, many years. Took very sick doing one of the Sugar Bowls. And Mickey Holmes, who was the executive director, said, who's gonna take Mr. Rogers' place? And Mickey Holmes said, they called me Little Joe. Little Joe's gonna do it. He knows better than anybody. And I was probably, I would say, a freshman in college when I did that. And that's when my relationship with Herb Vincent really started, because they would bring visiting SIDs in to work, and I got to meet Herb Vincent. I got to meet Bob Hartley from Mississippi State. David Housel, who sent me a text message the other day, almost brought tears to my eyes. I mean, Langford Rogers, I mean, you name it, everybody that ever was an SID in the SEC, I got to meet, and they really taught me. And that's why I thought I was going to be an SID. And then when the BCS came around, it was required, Bowl had to have a full-time PR person, and that's when, they took that responsibility away from me. I still handle pretty much game day responsibilities for ESPN and for all the football officials. So they still keep me around and use a little bit of my backside knowledge, but people at Sugar Bowl have been awesome. Jeff Hundley, who came in as an assistant director, I want to say, Christ, it might be 40 years now, 35 years now, has been a great friend of mine. He drove up for my ceremony, which I really made my heart feel good, because he's been a great friend. So,
by the way, Joe's wearing the jacket from the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame.
I figure I better wear it when I can, Eric. I don't know if you can wear it out much, but
it looks really nice. And again, something that you definitely want to keep forever. All right, you touched on this as we in our first segment, but I want to go back to it, because there was a renaissance of Delgado after Katrina, and again, the upgrading of, and now we're seeing even now it's kind of come full circle with the upgrading of the facilities. Talk a little about that. You talk about how difficult it was to go out there and raise money. Talk about again how the program really exploded.
The biggest sell that we had when I first started at Delgado was convincing mom and dad that you could go to Delgado and get transferable college credit. When we were kids, it was a trade school. Carpenters, electricians, air condition repairmen, plumbers, welders, and that vision was in every parent's mind when I first walked into the house. I can remember one daddy saying, I don't want my son to be a carpenter, I want him to be a doctor. And I said, well, he could be a doctor by coming to Delgado. He started laughing at me. But long story short, it could be done. In fact, I don't want to date us, but you're going to see somebody who's getting ready to be named a very powerful position in the federal system was a former Delgado baseball player. That's a little lead to what's to come. But so that was the big sell. And then, facilities. I mean, we touched on Kirsch Rooney. I mean, it needed to be upgraded. And the first 10 years I was there, we did little bits and pieces, put a new fence up one year, did the infield over 1 year, fixed the bullpens 1 year, batting cages, whatever it took. But really, when Katrina came, we had to do everything. So I remember calling our security office the morning Katrina hit. I was in Baton Rouge, and I asked the security guard that was on duty, I said, how's it look? He goes, Coach, you got smoked. He said, lights are down, the fence is down. He goes, I think a little mini twister hit here. And I said, what about water? He goes, no water, we don't have any water. And then I talked to him at 5 o'clock that afternoon, and he was on the railroad tracks on Canal Boulevard. So he said, you got 12 foot of water. And I said, oh my God. He said, the ballpark's got about 4 foot of water. I said, man, so we had to get something done. So here comes, I'm sitting in New Roads thinking, what am I gonna do? And my wife, we bought a paper, my wife said, hey, there's a story here about Delgado's offices being moved to Baton Rouge Community College. I said, oh. So I got in my car and drove from New Roads to BRCC and found our offices. And Jimmy Egan, who was our vice chancellor in charge of our business office, he had 3 or 4 other people there. The chancellor was there. And I'd go in every day and try to do whatever I could do to help. one day at lunch, I got the chancellor, just he and I at lunch together. I said, Doc, let me ask you a question. Is it possible if I raise the money, we could have a baseball program? And he looked at me and said, how are you going to do that? I said, I don't know. I said, but if you give me permission to raise the money, I sure would like to try. I said, we can't let athletics just fall apart.
Right.
He said, well, if you raise the money, yeah. He goes, I'll honor the kids' scholarships, obviously, but we're not going to be able to give you any money. So I went back to the camp that I was living in that night, put together a budget, and looked like $50,000 would get me going. Next day, drove in, showed Dr. Johnson my proposal. He said, hey, go for it. I'm not going to tell you no. He goes, I don't see how you're going to do it, but go ahead and do it. So word of mouth got around. We get back. We got back to New Orleans in about October 7th, October 10th, had a team meeting at Rummel High School. The people at Rummel were very nice, put out a bunch of flyers. And back then, you had the dial-up internet, right? Remember, we found most of our players. We were still missing 3 or 4 kids, 2 kids from Scheuermann. We had no idea where they were. And anyway, we had that meeting that night at Rummel, and 90% of our kids were there. And I said, hey, here's the deal. First thing we got to do, got to clean up. And then we're going to have to raise some money, but we're going to have a season. And that was October. So next day, we started picking up the pieces at the field. First thing we had to do was get the outfield fence off the infield grass, so we'd have a chance. And it was all wood. 10, 15 kids would do that, and we picked the remainder of the outfield fence up. And then we got all the light poles laying on the ground, and we called in a company that cut the poles for us and hauled them off. And my chancellor goes, how are you getting all this done? I said, don't ask. We'll just get it done. Sherman connections. Long story short, we got one of my former players' dad was a fence contractor in Florida, and he had reached out to see how we were doing. Stan Stewart was his name. I said, Stan, we're trying to put our fence back up. He goes, fence? He goes, I can help you with that. He said, what do you need? I said, well, our whole outfield fence is going. He says, I'll be back in touch. 2 weeks later, 2 18-wheelers pull up, storm fence, pipes, top rail, everything, all free. Awesome. So we team starts drilling holes, right? We're going to move the fence in. We moved the fence in 3 feet because they had a big chain wall where the old fence was engaged in. We had to put it in front of that chain wall, but it helped because we knew that was the measurement, right?
Yes.
So start drilling holes every 8 feet, put the fence up. A cab pulls up one day, United cab, and I see it all the way on the left field foul pole, and I see my kids pointing to me. So I walked over there, and cab driver said, Mr. Colton wants to see you. Dick Colton, Richard Colton. And he was in the back of the cab. He gets out. He said, man, y'all trying to get this done, huh? He said, I read the article in the paper. You're trying to raise money? I said, yeah, we need to raise about $50,000. And he said, man, he says, who's all these people working out here? I said, it's all my players. He goes, that's all you players? He goes, that's not laborers? I said, no, that's all my players. So he says, man, that's pretty impressive. He said, well, good luck. And he leaves. So about 2 days later, again, around lunchtime, the Red Cross truck would come and feed us.
Yes.
Right? So here comes the Red Cross truck, and the cab's right behind it. And cab pulls up, and it's the same cab driver. And he said, I'm looking in the back seat. Nobody was there. He said, I got an envelope for you. Mr. Colton wanted me to deliver. So he gives me this envelope, and I put it in my pocket because I'm getting ready to eat my free bologna sandwich and chips, and put it in my back pocket. And the kids are getting their food from the Red Cross truck. I sat down, and I said, oh, man, I got to open it up, check. And the rest is history. Yeah. So I'll owe a tremendous, really probably my career to Mr. Colton, to be honest with you, because I'm not really sure I'd have been a coach if we don't have a program. Yeah. And we were able to put the pieces back together. We played most of our games at Delgado with no lights. Right. And then we played our night games at Signet on the West Bank, which didn't have damage because the West Bank was perfect. So that's how we had our first season. And then that team actually went to the playoffs, Erica. We lost to Coach Johnson, who's the head coach at Oklahoma now, Skip Johnson, we lost to his club in the regionals at Texas. I had a kid named Kyle Bierbaum, a left-hander who ended up pitching at LSU. He lost a heartbreaking 3-2 or 4-3 game to Skip's team in the regional, and we got eliminated. But the next year, that club is the club that went to Grand Junction.
Right. And then now, almost, because again, for those who don't know, for a long time, working out of containers, right? At Curtis Rooney, right?
So Blake Dardar,
right?
Mr. Dardar, his son, Chase, pitched for me. We had no locker room.
Right.
Kids were getting dressed in their cars.
Yes.
I was getting emails from my neighbors. I see kids in their underwear. Well, it's not their underwear. They wear sliding shorts. I said, man, that's not their underwear. That's called a pair of sliding shorts. They have underwear under that.
Right.
When we were getting nasty emails from the neighbors that, kids shouldn't be dressed in their cars. We had nowhere to dress. Blake Dardar said, I got something for you. So he went through and brought me over across the river, and the gentleman who's the lieutenant governor said, Nungesser had this container company. He said, can you help us? We're looking for a place for our kids to dress. Nungesser had this one container, central heat and air. It was bunk beds on each side of it.
Right.
And they used it on the
all rigs?
All rigs.
Right.
He said, you want one of those, you can have it. He said, so he delivered it to our parking lot.
Right.
We took the bunk beds out. The central heat and air was in there. I put lockers on both sides, and we had our first locker room.
Right.
We thought we were high on the hog, right? And then we had that until Miss Benson.
Right. That's where I wanted to go. If you would talk about now,
so
the really full circle for Delgado.
So we had written a letter to Mr. Tom Benson during the period when he was with us, asking him for some help. That we were trying to build a locker room, because it's been a dream of mine since I walked on campus. And everything happens. Katrina happens, and then one thing leads to another, and really got put on the back shelf. Well, here comes our next request. We went through the foundation, the Gail and Tom Benson Foundation. Greg Bensel was instrumental in that, and Dennis Lauscher, and we made our formal request, and they granted us $1 million.
Incredible.
And so we literally had our plans. We're getting ready to start construction, and what happens? COVID.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, here we go again.
I know.
I said, oh man, every time we get a little head of steam, somebody throws a roadblock. But so COVID hits, and we got it shut down for 3 years. And by the time we rebroke, that $1 million was now worth about $750,000 in the scheme of things. But we were able to fundraise. Met a gentleman through a friend, Al Ramus, who made a $300,000 donation to us and put us into the portion that we were able to start construction, and we now have a $2.3 million athletic complex that is second to none. I'm going to tell you, if there's another junior college that has one better than us, I'd like to see it.
Only got a few minutes left, and I want to get a couple more questions in. The first is, why is Delgado critical for the city of New Orleans, and why is your program critical for a young player that wants to play baseball?
That's a great question. So our program mirrors the necessity of Delgado in our city. Just like we're giving kids opportunity to continue their dream in baseball, Delgado gives kids academic opportunity to continue their education, right? So you might not be able to afford an LSU or a Southeastern or a Tulane. Delgado gives that kid that opportunity to get affordable, transferable credit. It also gives that student, whether it be male or female, some technical training in either nursing or mechanical-driven classes that if he so chooses to take that trade, or she so chooses to take that trade. I think we're rated the #1 nursing school in the Southeast. We place more nurses in the hospitals than any other school in the Southeast. We have an X-ray program that's phenomenal. We have a surgical program that's phenomenal. We have a nursing school on campus, Eric. That's the most eerie thing you ever. It's all animated, so there's literally these computers where there's a person laying in the bed, and it's computer driven. It talks to you, and you have to diagnose its problem. It's unbelievable, state of the art. As far as that goes, that was done through Ochsner. So we fulfill a lot of needs, both academically and athletically, for kids who want to continue, and for adults who want to specialize.
And athletically?
Athletically, I'll say this. With the portal and the transfer and NILs, I mean, you're going to start to see high school kids realize junior college is a route you should take. When I first started, 2 junior colleges in the whole state. Now there's 7. Right, but people are starting to understand the importance of the junior college route, and what it offers.
Joe, as we wrap up with just a few minutes left, what does it mean to be inducted into all these halls of fame?
I mean, it's obviously, it's not an individual award, Eric. I mean, Joe Scheuermann didn't get inducted to any of this. My players, my assistant coaches, my administration, my family, are all part of why I'm being honored. You know, I say this from day one: coaches don't win games, players win games. I'm going to make more decisions to lose games than I am to win them. So the reason I'm going in is it's a program award, but it's for my players and my assistant coaches that have been with me.
Joe, been at it a long time. Probably it feels like your whole life, right?
Yeah,
baseball, right?
Pretty much has been.
Any thoughts about hanging up the cleats? And if you were thinking about that, what would you like to do?
I get asked that quite often, and I had the same conversation with Coach Saban when he was sitting next to me. I said, Coach, my dad used to say, you'll know when it's time. And Coach Saban said, I coached till I was 73. I said, well, I got 10 good years left in me then. But really, Eric, I wake up every morning wanting to go to work. I work up every morning with drive. I go to sleep at night. I have my 10 things to do the next day, which I got from Elmel Lagarde. 10 things to do every day and get them done. And when I lose that energy and I lose that determination, then I'll probably retire. What would I do when I retire? Man, I don't know. I think drive my wife nuts. Probably another reason why I wouldn't retire. But it's something that I love to do, and hopefully the good Lord will give me health to continue to do for a few more years.
Got 2 minutes left. Baseball in New Orleans.
Well, I mean, my program is a product of the baseball, tremendous baseball in our state. With Skip Bertman, with Ron Maestri, with Joe Brockhoff, what Rag Scheuermann did for baseball in our state will never be equaled again, right? And maybe not in that order. Maybe it was Rags, Maestri, Brockhoff, and then Coach Bertman. But it obviously, Bertman blew it up, right? He came in and showed people in the state of Louisiana, which was a football state, that baseball should be the game of choice.
Yeah, and of course, from the little leagues again that when we grew up again, that it's still today, to grammar school, to high school, and then of course you talk about collegiate coaches. We've been blessed with some great coaching.
Oh God, New Orleans per capita has got the best baseball coaches in the world. You know, one thing that I used to really be proud of was my daddy's coaching tree and all the guys that he placed in high school. I'm starting to get just as proud of my coaching tree with all the guys that are now high school coaches.
Joe, it's been a pleasure, man. You know, for me, a guy that again grew up with you, that's known your family again for most of my life, I've never been prouder. And to see you again have an opportunity to get into that Hall of Fame, well deserved, my friend. And then again, as I broke it down, again, Tulane Sports Hall of Fame, American Amateur Baseball Hall of Fame inductee, 2025 NJCAA Coaches Legacy Award winner, and then of course now 2025 Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame inductee, following your dad, Rags.
Thank you, Eric. Thanks for having me, and believe me, I never forgot where I came from, and I know you didn't either.
No, we sure did. Joe Scheuermann, again, head coach of Delgado Baseball, and touched so many lives in our city, across our state, just like his dad did before him. Joe, it's been a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you. Thanks again.
Joe Scheuermann, and of course, a guy that, I mean, look, I actually wore the blue and white today, St. Francis colors.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. Again, great neighborhood to grow up in, and a great family, the Scheuermann family as well. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. So many ways to catch our program now. There's a QR code on your screen that will take you to my website, ericasher.com, also the WLAE-TV YouTube channel, between WLAE-TV, WLAE-TV2, and Pelican Sports Television. Plenty of ways to catch our show. Set your DVR, you'll never miss the program. You catch me on the radio 4 to 6 weekdays, 106.7 The Ticket. You can listen live at ericasher.com. The Ticket also has a website where you can listen live. Also, iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app. We have our own app, 106.7 The Ticket app, that you take the station of the show with you everywhere. Also, again, don't forget, about our underwriters who make this show possible. They do a great job, and again, keeping our show on the air. Please support our underwriters, and of course the folks here at WLAE-TV who produce our program each and every week. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Alex Chacon, and the best director on the planet, William Hill. For Joe Scheuermann, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks for watching.
Emergency room visits for eating disorders doubled among teen girls during the pandemic, according to the CDC. Psychologists say parents should be aware of potential warning signs, including negative self-talk about their body, frequently checking their weight, becoming preoccupied with food, or avoiding eating around others. They may also start exercising excessively or showing physical changes like sudden weight loss or weight gain.
Parents also should not make critical comments about their own bodies or other people's bodies, because those comments are very easily internalized by children and teens.
Don't hesitate to reach out to a medical professional for help if you think your child is having a problem. Early intervention is crucial in recovery.
Hey, I'm Keith Sparrow from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. My guest this week on Let's Talk is rock photographer and Haunted History Tours founder, Sydney Smith. Sydney, have ghosts or rock and roll been better for you over the years?
Well, it's all about drugs, sex, rock and roll, and haunted history tours. There's also my stripping career, too. We didn't even, that we can talk about that as well.
Well, tune in this week on Let's Talk to hear all about sex, drugs, rock and roll, and Sydney's stripping career.
We're local and educational. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans